guys, today I am going to be talking about all of the books I read in the months January through June 2020. So far this year, I have read 70 books. 14 of those were in the month of July. So I'm going to be talking about 56 books today. I'm going to be giving you the title and all of that, my star rating, and maybe a brief synopsis. We'll see how it goes. I'm thinking this video is going to be very casual. I'm not gonna try to go too in-depth on every book because I don't want to be here for too long. I actually won't be talking about 56 books because some of these books were rereads and I am not going to talk about the rereads for a multitude of reasons, but I'm just going to be talking about the books that I read for the first time this year. First up, the first book I finished in 2020 actually really annoys me because I wanted to finish it in 2019 and wasn't able to, so it carried over into 2020. So I guess you could say I've only read 69 books this year, but Goodreads counts it. It is what it is, and that was The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I gave this 5 stars. I freaking loved this book. I didn't think I was going to because I heard there wasn't a lot of plot and it was a lot of atmospheric kind of writing, but this was absolutely beautiful. I enjoyed every single page, even when I was like, I'm not totally sure I know what's going on. I just was on board. I loved it. It was so good. Next up, we have One of Us is Next by Karen McManus. This book, I gave 3 stars. I think that's generous, to be honest. Karen McManus hit a home run with One of Us is Lying. I really enjoyed that when I read that a few years ago. And then I read this one and Two Can Keep a Secret and was just like, no. Nah, neither of them did anything for me. This I think I liked a little bit more than Two Can Keep a Secret, but some of the plot lines in this I was like, huh? And I can take a lot in a thriller, but there's a difference between writing a thriller and creating a mood of kind of unexpected or unbelievable things. And there's the other thing where you try to make it super believable, but there are plot twists that are just like, no way in hell. There was way too many fucking characters in this book. Like, way too many, like, nods to people in the first ones. It was just, I didn't know who was who, and I was constantly like... And then, like, the things that would happen to people, I'm like, I don't really care about him. It was just not my favorite. 3 stars is generous, but I'll keep it. Next up, we have Stay Sexy and Don't Get Murdered. I listened to this on audio. I have never listened to My Favorite Murder, the podcast, but I gave this 4 stars. I thought it was really funny, really well done, and really interesting, and it was very good on audio. I really like it when authors read their audiobooks, and the girls from My Favorite Murder read this audiobook. Really enjoyed it. It was a good time. There was a lot to it, a lot of different things. I like true crime. I should probably listen to this podcast. I read their book first. There you go. Next up, we have Dear Ije Awele, or A Feminist Manifesto in 15 Suggestions. I loved this. This was a 5-star book for me. I read it on audio. It's pretty basic, but it was so good. Just so genuinely enjoyable. Loved it a lot. Next up, we have Attachments by Rainbow Rowell. I gave this 4 stars, which is very generous because now I look back at it with nothing but negative feelings. This book is fucking creepy. It's about a guy who works in IT and his only job is to read through flagged emails, and he starts reading the correspondence between these 2 friends at this newspaper, and he falls in love with one of the women that he's never met and has only just basically stalked. Nope. And they like tried to make it okay because the woman thought he was cute. No. I don't know why I gave this 4 stars. I'm gonna change this right now because looking back, I'll give it a 3-star for now, but it honestly should be lower. I liked some parts of this, but most of it was just like icky looking back on. Not my favorite. Next up, we have The Hand on the Wall by Maureen Johnson. This is the 3rd book in the Truly Devious trilogy, and I loved it. I thought it was a great, just tie up all the loose ends, give you a lot of action and plot, and I need to reread it because I read all 3 of these books so fast that I just need to reread them to like absorb them a little better. 5 stars. Loved this book. Next up, we have The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. I read this for school. I really didn't think I was gonna like it because it's written in verse, and I was just like, I don't like poetry. Bitch, I was wrong. This is great. I gave it 5 stars. I'm obsessed with Elizabeth Acevedo now. Yeah, I've now purchased all of her other books. Can't wait to read more because I suck and don't read what I buy. But loved this freaking book. It was so good. It's such a great coming of age story with religious parents and trying to figure that out, and just like beautiful. Beautiful. Next up we have Before I Let Go. And I'm just going to group in, this is where it ends. These were both 2-star books. Before I Let Go was totally unfucking believable because I really pet peeve of mine. I can turn off my sense of disbelief in a thriller, in a well-written thriller where the mood is kind of like uncertain and like, I don't know. I can turn it off sometimes. Certain YA thrillers don't do it for me, and things like a YA contemporary that randomly gets magical or like hints at magic, no thanks. No. The shit that happened in this book pissed me off. It's about a girl who used to live in a small Alaskan town, and her family has since moved away, and she has plans to go visit her friend, and then right before that happens, her friend apparently commits suicide. And she like doesn't quite believe it, and the townspeople are being really fucking weird to her, and it just weird. Didn't like it at all. This is where it ends. Cheapens school shootings, just in my opinion. In my opinion, this was not a good depiction of a school shooting. I thought it cheapened it so much. I didn't like it at all. I had so many issues with it. No. Next up, we have The Life-Changing Magic of Not Giving a Fuck by Sarah Knight. I listened to this on audiobook. I gave it a 3-star. I didn't think it was anything special. Like, it was fine. It didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't anything special. Next up, we have The Other People by CJ Tudor. I read this for the Literally Dead book club. I gave it 4 stars. I liked it. There was just one aspect of it at the very end that I was like, not into it. Kind of goes into the, like, either write a magical book or don't. Wasn't my favorite element. Really liked it up until that point, though. It's about a man who is driving home one day and he sees his daughter in the backseat of a car and she's bound and gagged. And he's like, wait, there's no way that's my daughter. There's no way. Then he calls the police. He pulls over the side of the road and calls home and to find out that his wife and daughter are dead and or missing. Next up, I read Boots on the Ground, America's War in Vietnam by Elizabeth Partridge. I gave this 4 stars. I really like narrative nonfiction. I didn't think I was going to. I read this for my YA Lit class in grad school and genuinely enjoyed it way more than I thought I was going to. This just tells different aspects of the Vietnam War, 2 teenagers through different stories, and it was really well done in my opinion. Really enjoyed it. Next up, we have The Last of August by Brittany Cavallaro. This is the 2nd book in the Charlotte Holmes series. I gave this 3 stars, like I gave the first one. These books are so fucking weird and unbelievable and just like, what the fuck's going on? But I continually want to read the next one. So I think I'm going to read the next one. But at the same time, it's like, what the hell is going on? But I liked it enough. Next up, I read Second Chance Summer by Morgan Matson. I gave this 3 stars. I found this really disappointing. It did not do for me what all the other Morgan Matsons have done for me. It might be because I'm just now too old to appreciate a YA contemporary like this. It pulled on my heartstrings toward the end, but most of it was so boring. This book is like 150 pages too long. It didn't do it for me, and I'm real sad about that. Next up, we have My Sister the Serial Killer. I gave this 4 stars. This was not by no means a perfect book. It didn't do what I really wanted it to do. I wanted it to get darker. I did just want this to take a turn. It didn't really do that. It's about a girl, like this title would tell you, whose sister she suspects is a serial killer because her boyfriends keep turning up dead. And she keeps having her clean them up. And she keeps doing it for her sister in like loyalty for her sister. But you know, there are moments where she's like, I should stop. And a lot of this book I was like, why don't you just stop? So it was a 4-star in the end because I wanted it to take a little bit of a darker turn, but it didn't. Next up we have They Called Us Enemy by George Takei. 5 stars. This was a graphic novel based off of George Takei's life in the Japanese American internment camps during World War II. It was just really well done. It opened my eyes. It is something that I was never taught in school, which is really, really fucked up and wrong because it's part of it's a really messed up part of American history that we are not taught about. And this was one of my first interactions with that. I thought it was really well done. Since it's from the perspective of a child, it really pulls on your heartstrings, but it also makes it a little bit lighter because he doesn't totally grasp what's going on. Except we have Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. I gave this 4 stars. This did not bother me as much as some people. Some people really had a problem with this book. I didn't hate it. There's some weird shit in this book, some kind of magical, crazy shit. But for some reason, in thrillers, I'm less upset about it. I gave it a 4-star because I was still somewhat upset about it because I was like, why did that have to be a thing? But it did also add a lot to the story. Sometimes, like in my opinion, the other people, the magic element to it didn't add a lot. I just felt like it was kind of like there. But this, I felt like it did give a lot to the story. I didn't see it coming. I didn't see the ending coming, which I appreciate. I didn't hate it. I gave it 4 stars. I've gotten rid of it, but I did give it 4 stars. Next up, we have Alice from Dream to Dream. This is a graphic novel for teens that I read for class. I gave it 3 stars. I just didn't love this. This just didn't do anything for me. I don't love graphic novels as it is, so this had a big job, and I just, meh. I mean, it had kind of cool art, and I was really weird about rating this anyway because I couldn't pick how I felt about it, but this just wasn't my thing, for sure. Next up, we have All the Bright Places by Jennifer Niven. I just randomly decided to read some books on my backlist, and this was the first one I grabbed off my shelf. 3 stars. The problems and issues people have with this are so valid, it's not even funny. I didn't even think it was that, like, beautiful. There was one point that made me cry. And other than that, I could have just left that book alone. It was just, it's kind of a waste of time. I get why back in the day this was like a very exciting new concept for YA, but now it's just like, no. I don't even think I'm being like at all eloquent about how I feel about this book, but it just, no. Next up, we have The Scented Fox by Lainey Brown. This is a poetry collection that my brother got me for my birthday quite a few years ago that I had just never read. I picked it up. I gave it 4 stars. I don't love poetry, but there were some pretty good ones in here that I enjoyed, some that went over my head, but some that I liked, so I gave it 4 stars, probably also because my brother gave it to me. Next up, we have Platform 7. Read this for the Literally Dead book club, had to listen to it on audio because I couldn't find a physical copy of it. Gave it a 2 star. This is not a fucking thriller. The girl's a ghost, and that's it. She tells a story about her abusive boyfriend, and that's it. It was boring. So much of it was boring. It had like moments of like, okay, I'm on board, and then most of it was just like, ugh. God damn it, just finish talking. Next up, we have Big Magic, Creative Living Beyond Fear by Elizabeth Gilbert. 3 stars. Very average. Very average. Did nothing new or inspiring. I read it and was just like, this is like every creative self-help book ever written. You Are Not Alone by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. I've only read An Anonymous Girl, and I was really excited for this. I don't know. I think they're very much tied on how I feel about them. I have issues with both. This one I didn't quite see coming with the twist, but it could have done a little bit more for me. There were such frustrating moments. I'll give them that. Like, they made this frustrating and like kind of scary as hell on like a personal, like if this was happening to me level. But it wasn't perfect. It definitely wasn't perfect. Next up, we have Dear Martin by Nick Stone. I read this for class as an ebook. I gave this a 4 star. I liked it. It was good. It tugged at your heartstrings. It did what it was planning to do. I didn't love it quite as much as other books on the topic of gun violence and, you know, the different topics that this book tackles, but it was still a very well done book. I have read a couple now, and this was not my favorite. The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton. I had never read this. I picked it up toward the beginning of lockdown. 5 stars. I really fucking loved this book, which I'm shocked about, to be honest. I've talked about this already in my April wrap-up, because I did do an April wrap-up, but very good. The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware is the perfect example of unbelievable shit happening and me being okay with it. I don't know why. I think it's just the mood that was set. I was like, okay, anything can happen at this point. And I was on board. I gave it a 4 star. I had a fun ride. Same thing goes for Baby Teeth. Did a lot happen in this book? No. Is it really character-based around this, like, somewhat psychotic child? Yes. Did I enjoy it? Yes. I really didn't think I was going to, but I did. Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, 4 star. I really liked this book. I don't know why. I think it just made me nostalgic for college, and I kind of understood the social anxiety aspects of it. I could relate. I didn't love the fanfiction parts. I do have Carry On. We'll see if I read Carry On, but I did. I really enjoyed it. Not a big Rainbow Rowell fan, but liked this book. Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds is amazing. One of the best books I've read this year. 5 stars. Another verse novel. Handles gun violence and other stuff beautifully. I would highly recommend this book. It's so good. The Martian by Andy Weir, 4 stars. I'm an idiot, and some of this went over my head. A lot of the science and math, but I enjoyed it. It was a good time. I read Little Women for the first time, and I gave this 3 stars. I was not blown away. Gotta be honest. It was fine. It was hard for me to get through, honestly, but I did. 3 stars. Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, 4 stars. There were parts of this that infuriated the fuck out of me, and other parts where I was like, okay, I'm on board here. And it's a pretty average, it's a good book. It's a decent YA book, and there's a reason that it has the hype that it has. A Heart and a Body in the World, beautiful. 4 stars. Really like the way that this was handled. The guilt associated that she felt with, basically it deals with gun violence, and the guilt and the way that she's handling it, and she's trying to run across country, and I'm not being eloquent at all describing these books. I'm sorry, but I liked it. I listened to it on audio, and it worked for me. Wilder Girls, one of my favorite books of the year. Fucking loved this book. 5 stars. Please just read it. Everybody who says it was bad is lying. Bunny by Mona Awad, 5 stars, one of my favorite books of the year. Weird as shit, but so good. Dress Codes for Small Towns by Courtney C. Stevens. Good book. Didn't think I was going to like it when I started it. 5 stars. Really enjoyed it. Had really cool small town vibes that I was on board with. Identity stuff. It was such a good coming of age novel, and just realistically done, because there's a lot of like question marks. It's like ambiguous. It's a lot of like, I don't know how I feel, and I like that, because a lot of teen novels, it's like, I am this and I'm sure about it, and for some people that's how it works, and some people it's kind of like, is that how I feel? I don't really know how I feel. I don't know what I am. I don't know how to identify, and I felt like it was handled really, really well and realistically, and I loved it. Fragments of the Lost by Megan Miranda, 3 stars. This is a YA thriller. It's not a thriller till like 2/3 of the book, and even then it's like, is that what you are? Are you just like a messed up contemporary? I didn't love it. I read it really fast, but it definitely didn't, it left a lot to be desired. The Selection, 2 stars, but this haunts me. I kind of want to read the other ones, but it's a 2 star. But there's a part of me for like dystopian nostalgia that wants to keep reading, and it's a quintessential YA dystopian for sure, but it's still a 2 star. Middle Game. Holy fuck, did not think this was going to be up my alley. 5 stars. Loved this book. Who would have thought that? Because I didn't think so. I read the premise of this, saw how long it was, and was like, I don't think it's going to go well. Loved it. So good. I don't even know how to describe the premise of this book. I think you should go in blind. Genuinely, just go in blind. It's amazing. White Fragility, I gave 4 stars. It's basic. It's an intro to racism for white people, and it does that pretty well. It has its issues, but for what it does, it's a good book. And I think I think it's a good book just to give people like your problematic uncle who doesn't think racism still exists. It's a good book for them. It meets them where they're at. It meets them on their level. Doesn't do a lot of like crazy wow things if you're already familiar with racism in America. But if you've got relatives or friends who, you know, say problematic shit and don't understand, it's a good book for them. If We Were Villains by ML Rio, I fucking loved it. 5 stars. Dark academic setting with a thriller element with some Shakespeare. Apparently that's my shit. I love schools. I love school settings. I love camp settings. Love that shit. Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. 4 stars. This was adorable. Genuinely enjoyed it. I was on board the whole time. Just, Chloe Brown is a girl who doesn't take a lot of risks. She has a routine. She has chronic pain, so she doesn't do a lot outside of her comfort zone. She has a near-death experience and decides she's going to change her life with this bucket list of crazy things that she's going to do. And she meets this guy that she doesn't really like at first, but he helps her to complete the list, and it's adorable. The Bride Test. 3 stars. Didn't do for me what Chloe Brown did. Chloe Brown, I was on board with this romance. There was chemistry. There was just like tension. It was so good. The Bride Test, I was like, where the fuck is the chemistry between these 2 people? Like, it's an arranged marriage kind of thing because his mother has got this girl from Vietnam to come to America and try to basically like seduce him and like make him want to be her husband. And Kai does have autism, so that is an interesting element, but there is literally no chemistry between these 2, like at all. And I didn't really like the characters. I was not on board for this book. Last up, for books that I read between January and June that weren't rereads, is King and the Dragonflies by Kacen Callender. I've never listened to middle grade on audio, but this was beautiful. Absolutely the most lyrical, just like, oh, so good. It was so, so good. And it just deals with identity and neglect and abuse and all these other things. And it's just, and grief. There's so much in this book, and it is beautiful, and it is written just, oh, I'm so passionate. It's definitely top 10 of the year for me right now. I don't think anything's gonna knock that out of it because it was so good. So good. 5 stars all the way. Please read this book. It's so good. So those are all of the books that I have finished that aren't rereads between June and January. I read some damn good books. I've also read some not great books. But yeah, I'm having a great reading year. I've read 70 books this year. I've read more in 7 months than I read the past probably ever. I've never read 70 books in a year. I'm almost positive. Ever. So the fact that I've read 70 books in 7 months is great for me. Lockdown did wondrous things for my reading because I didn't really do anything but read. Didn't write, didn't learn skills. Just played Webkinz, watched TV and TikTok, and read books. So I think reading is productive. My mom and other people disagree with me, but I think it's productive. But thank you guys so much for watching. Comment down below the best books you've read so far this year. I want to know. I'm really behind on that. I don't know if I'm going to be creating that video, but we'll see. But yes, thank you guys so much for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, all the normal stuff. And I'll see you guys again super soon. Bye.